All right, good morning again. Today we are going to throw in a little ad hoc demonstration this morning. These videos always go pretty well. So what we have here is we have a German G-98 1904 production, a very, very early one that was donated to the museum. And unfortunately, as I always tend to do, I did not take any pictures of it when it came in. Before we go any further, please let me remind you that you can support us today by giving stars on the broadcast. It's really easy to do. There's a link in the comments. Click on it, enter in some information. You have stars you can give away. Also, if you have any comments or questions, we do have someone watching the comments section. I won't be on the camera today. I'll be actually doing this, so she will be able to see them, and I can answer your questions as I do this. So one of the things that we do here at Ghost of the Battlefield is we do restore items that come in that are probably long since gone in most people's opinion, but you can always bring something back. So what we have here is a German G-98. It is a 1904 Airfort production, and it is one of the guns that I think was probably destroyed by the Treaty of Versailles, meaning that a large number of German guns had to be demobilized or demilitarized by permanently rendering them unable to function, and was probably bought back by a returning GI. When I received it, it was held together with electrical tape. It was missing most of its parts, and it was broken in half. Actually, no, it was broken in 3 places, and the barrel had been cut off with a hacksaw. So what we have done to get something out of this, and just really as a training tool, is to convert it into a G-98-33 carbine by removing the damaged section of the end of the barrel here, stepping it back, putting the front sight back on it, and then remounting the hardware as it would appear normally. And then the stock had to be repaired and cut back and moved back here. So what we have already done is we've already repaired the stock at this point using Acra glass to seal it. The crack that runs right through the line right here is still visible, but it's definitely sturdy now. On the other side, there's also a large crack, a diagonal crack that runs through here down to there, and that's also been sealed. So what we're going to do today, and this is all we're going to talk about today, is finishing the stock to look like it should. So we'll have to take the rifle apart again, and we'll cover doing the metal treatments on another video. So we're going to take the front barrel band off first. So make sure I'm still in frame, and the pin is not down in it, so we can just tippy tap it off with our little Delton hammer here. There it goes. Pull that off. The second barrel band off, goes to the side. And here are all the remaining parts. And this is how we can tell that this is a Weimar D-mill or a Treaty of Versailles D-mill. They actually sliced off the firing pin. You can see how they sliced it off there. All right, so I'm going to go to the action screws, and we will remove those. This has all been pre-fit before. A lot of these are replacement parts that we had to get. All right. And we'll throw all of the metal parts back in the bucket over here. Like I said, we'll do another video about that. That's a whole nother process. The G-98 was obviously made for the German Empire starting in the year 1898. It had 5 or 10 different variations throughout its service life, and eventually evolved into the K-98 of World War II fame that we just had a video on earlier. You can pull the bolt out because that is not in there. Get rid of that. And we'll wiggle the 2 parts apart. Here's the action. Put that to the side. Oh! And trigger guard to the side. And this is what we're left with. Should I remove this? We'll see. Why not? Doesn't hurt anything. We'll take that off. So what has happened here is when I got the stock, like I said, it was held together with 2 pieces of electrical tape. and was in someone's garage, whatever. It was donated. It was given to the museum. It was given to the organization. So this is owned by Ghosts of the Battlefield, not by me. And when I started to look at it, I started to see it still has all of its proof marks on there, which is, you know, to someone who's into restoring vintage military firearms, proof marks are always what makes it so neat. But the stock was in terrible condition. So I did the sinful thing, and I actually sanded the stock because I had to. There was no point. There's no monetary value in it as it was, and I am good enough with the tools. Not to sound so arrogant, but I'm good enough with the tools. I know what I'm doing. That I didn't hurt it at all or make it any worse. But you still see here is a rack number right here, and then on the side, this is the neat part. Here's the King's Crown. Here's another King's Crown, German Army stamp. And then the stock disc is still present. And if you look at the numbers here, this is from the 6th Reserve Infantry Regiment, weapon number 94. And you look them up and they were on the Western Front. So this gun was on the front lines. It was in the trenches. It was literally there. You can feel it in there. So again, previously we had acroglassed the stock back together, and you can see a little bit of it poking out right there, but this has already been smoothed out. So if you have to use a mechanical sander, please understand that you are going to be able to see the swirls. If you look deep enough into the wood, you're going to see the swirls in the pattern of the sanding. So what you really have to do is you have to do this by hand, like it would have been done normally by hand. So I took the major chunks out of it with a machine, and I didn't change the contours of anything. Sometimes people way over sand these, and all of a sudden the receiver doesn't sit in all the way, or the trigger guard won't sit all the way. Nothing has been changed here. But then I come back and do it by hand to remove the little swirls, and then I come back after that with steel wool, starting off with very rough steel wool, and then working down to fine to get it back to that rubbed space, that rubbed finish that you don't see the mechanical swirls of the jitterbug sander in there. Again, this rifle has been shortened. I don't know why the previous owner decided to cut like 8 inches off the barrel and did it very poorly. If you look here, the barrel has been now shortened to the correct length for a carbine model and crowned correctly. But again, this being a military D-mill, the barrel is actually plugged. It has a large rod in it that has been welded in place by, I guess, the Treaty of Versailles people for whatever reason. The stock would have been too long, so what we did is we shortened it, reinforced this channel with brass, and then acroglassed it, so now it is the same length as a K98 stock. So there was a G-98 that was shortened. I believe it was the model 32 or 34. So this is kind of an ad hoc model 34 at this point. This gun will just go into the World War I gallery up front, and it'll just be a placeholder. It has a place. It has a story to tell, and it'll be, once it's done, it'll be up there. So without further ado, I'm going to turn my hands orange for everyone live on camera. When you go ahead and you work on the stocks on these, what will happen is you can see very clearly the change in color. And what you will do is you'll want to make it all one uniform color. The darker, the older it is, that's fine. So a product that I use is Fiebling's leather dye. This is what you'd use if you were making shoes or moccasins or belts or whatever. And the neat thing about these is, first off, they go right through oils and built up stuff in the gun, and you can actually mix them together to make different colors. This dye is so potent, it will go through rubber gloves. So I don't even bother wearing rubber gloves anymore. I mean, my fingers will be orange for like 2 weeks. Okay, fine. So we are probably going to want this to be as dark as possible. So we're going to use the dark brown. I'm not going to try and mix it with anything. And you'll see it actually smells rather nice, kind of an orangey smell. But we'll pour it in here. I'll try to keep it off my fingers. All right. And a little dab will do you. You can get that on Amazon, by the way. It's you can get a kit that has all the different ones in it, or you can just get the color you need. So we're gonna waddle up a piece of cloth towel here. You see the light spot and the dark spot, so watch what happens. Soak it up. Again, if anyone has any questions, sing them out. I'll be able to hear them. Someone will relate to me. So watch. So everyone see the different colors. See? Goes back dark. Now you'll see as it soaks in, you can tell when it's penetrated all the way. See? And the thing is, you can keep working it. So if it starts off and it's too light, like, I don't like it, you can keep working it, right? So see how it's already soaked in here? See how the hue has changed? This side. There you go. Now you'll see my fingers were nowhere even near it, and look, all of a sudden, see, it's starting to turn orange. So I look a little jaundiced for a little while, but it's temporary. All right. And so we're gonna go the length of the whole thing to get a uniform color. And if it gets in the middle, that's okay, because it just wipes off. Don't want to get any on my new shirt. Probably shouldn't have worn this shirt. This is an ad hoc thing, so hey, whatever. Okay. There. What do we think about that? Looks better, huh? See the thumbs up out there if you're actually paying attention. Blend it together. Typically, I find when you see these rifles come in, they areas where a soldier's hands would have been on it are darker than most places, and that's typically going to be like right in here and right along here. So we have here Cordovan, medium brown. We have the darkest one. Let's try and mix some mahogany into the mix. Give us a little bit more. Like I said, it does layer. You can layer it up. Okay, so you can continue to make it darker. All right, we're really gonna dye my fingers now. There you go. That's the color we're looking for. The only thing that was semi-silly about this was that I haven't gotten the upper handguard yet, so I'm gonna have to match that on the fly, but not beyond my scoping capabilities. But there's the color. Look at the color now. That dark red walnut color. Right. And when you do this, look how it makes the proof marks pop. They'll pop right out of there. You can see them at the bottom. Now the crack is almost all but disappeared. Can't see it at all. So we do the other side. I can really feel it getting in my fingers now. Yeah, we're gonna be nice color here in a second. All right. The older it would have been, the darker it would have been as age and oil seeped in. We have some sound effects going in the background today. You can almost imagine that this is the things that rifle would have heard on the Western Front. All right. Look at that. That's perfect hue right there. Okay. Okay. So the good thing about this stuff, now look at my fingers. Yes. Doesn't smell bad, however, so you're all right. Typically speaking, what we would do at this stage is we would oil it, but this has already been oiled and it's already got a pretty good hue to it. So we're just going to demonstrate the waxing today. You see how quickly this sets. It's setting very, very quickly. You can go over, wipe off any excess, because if it's not soaked in by now, it's probably not going to. So we can just go ahead and do that. All right. And that's, look at that color right there. That's very, very nice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to demonstrate our patent pending stuff that we make here. This is our boomstick butter. It comes by many other different names. I'm not listening, so that's funny. It comes by very many other names. It contains basically waxes and oils and some turpentine as a catalyst. So this is the stock wax that we use. So when the stocks were, when white rifles were made at the factory, what they did is they had a blank. They made the stock. They dunked it in hot linseed oil as a preservative. They let it dry. We're beyond that stage now. And then they had a tank of paraffin wax that they dunk it in and then pull it back out and then let it dry again. So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate that paraffin wax coating using this right here. So you can put it on hard like this if you feel you have some muscles there, but I don't. So what I use a heat gun, and we heat it up. And so everybody likes to make the joke I may have said famously on camera one time, when you get to the consistency of warm apple pie, you're there. Ah, God, that's actually hot. Okay. So we're going to get that. I'm going to start smearing it on. You'll see it kind of takes on a flavor a little bit of the stain or the dye that was on there. Actually, I'm going to go and use a bigger can, because we have much more of it there. When you get it on there and it's dry, you can just do this. Watch it just melts. Nice consistency. We'll heat this one up. You've overdone it with the heating last time. There we go. There we go. And the wax you can get on the metal, it's fine. It actually repels moisture. Again, that backspace there on the grip down here. If there are any other small scuffs or striations, this will fill it in. Absolutely no questions, really? There's plenty of people out there. No questions? Just watching me torture myself in silence? That's fine. Interesting. All right. All right. Filling that crack there. Work our way forward. Ugh. Okay. And we can just use the heat gun to get it to soak in a little bit better. Oop, missed a spot. You do not necessarily need to use a heat gun for this. You could use a hair dryer if you want. However, Ghost of the Battlefield is not responsible for pissing off your wife. I piss off my own pretty much good enough. You don't need to saddle me with that. So, you can let this sit for half an hour and buff it off for a great effect, and then repeat if you want to continue to build the wax wear. We'll probably do that some other time. But don't let it sit overnight. It'll turn into a solid block, and you will not be able to get it off without heating all the way back up and starting over again. But for demonstration purposes, we will buff a little bit of it here now so you can see what it looks like. Make sure I'm in the frame here. Okay. There. So you can see here is the polished part. This is shiny from just being very thick. Oops. Ding, fries are done. There. Look, see the glint? That is a good hue. Now you can keep going and do this multiple times. I usually want to do about 3 passes. This has already been done one time through the miracle of modern television, but that right there is about the perfect tone you're going to want. That pretty much shows how it would have looked in the field and service. You don't want it to be too shiny. You also don't want it to be too dry, because dry wood, it becomes brittle wood. There. I get the idea of the tone of it. So a word on preservation. I have yet to achieve my museum conservator's accreditation. And there are those who will loudly maintain that you should do nothing to artifacts because you're jeopardizing their historical relevance. Like I said, in my opinion, at least in this case, that doesn't really work, because when this rifle came in, again, I didn't take any pictures of it, but it was worthless. It was a tomato steak. It was nothing. So it's one way of looking at it. But in this case, I feel that a lot of places just don't want to take the time or exhaust the energy to maintain it. So it's equipment. It has to be maintained. You cannot throw it in a glass case and say, oh, that's it, it's preserved. It's not. Wood deteriorates, leather deteriorates, metal deteriorates. So each person has to judge for themselves so far as how far they want to go to restore or preserve something. Our vehicles, for instance, are all preservations or not restorations. We don't add aftermarket parts or put anything on them that is not considered original. I mean, we're not making this into a sniper rifle or anything. We're not trying to improve upon its value or its relevance or make anything it's not. We're just trying to maintain that it is preserved. Because, I mean, it was there, you know, whatever, but maybe not in this configuration, but it will still serve a purpose of telling a story. So, again, you find that relic out there, make your own decision about how far you want to preserve it. I mean, I'm just trying to just demonstrate the historically correct way that these weapons were maintained. There's no neat's foot oil or Minwax or polyurethane or all that other stuff that, you know, everyone claims to use. We're using the actual original equipment, the original materials, the original chemicals, and aside from a large vat of boiling oil, the original process for maintaining weapons of this era. Using a lot of elbow grease today. You can hear I'm starting to get a little winded. There. But you can see, again, not taking pictures of it before, but look at what we've achieved. Look at that. Beautiful. The only problem, like I said before, is I don't have an upper handguard yet, so now I'm going to have to match them after the fact, which is going to be kind of a pain. I had talked about how if you use a mechanical sander, again, not recommended, you will see the little swirls in the stock afterwards if you don't get it all the way. I can actually see a line of it right there. So that's on me. But you can buff it out. You can buff it out the stage too. Like if I wanted to really get rid of that one particular small line that's barely noticeable, I would use steel wool on it and polish it, and it'll be gone. So getting the wax inside is not a bad thing. Just make sure you evenly smooth it around. It's gonna seal in the moisture that should be in there and keep out the moisture it shouldn't. Let's keep working our way forward here. So at the end of the day, what are we ending up with here? We're taking something that was completely worthless, 100% worthless. And again, I didn't take pictures of it before. And we are bringing it back to a point where it can serve a purpose. It is not an original G-98 33, whatever the designation was, but it may be enough to inspire someone. It may be enough to just demonstrate that you can take something that really is worthless and at least, make it something out of it. This weapon has no historical value at this point, but this process can be used on ones that are just in need of a little bit of maintenance. All right, so this pretty much concludes our tutorial on restoring the stocks of vintage weaponry. Keep that up a little bit so it sinks down that hole. There we go. And so those of you who have sat through the however many minutes of this, I see the crowd's still pretty good out there. Thank you. Again, support us on here with stars or likes and shares even count. We are monetized. You can also join us on Patreon for $5 a month. You have access to unique videos and tutorials like this, as well as all of our historical stories. That always is a big help. We're at Patreon at Goes to the Battlefield. Just go to Patreon, type in Goes to the Battlefield, and there we are. But here is the finished project or product. Does anyone remember what it looked like before? And that is gorgeous. And as I always say, I am just a temporary steward of these things. This will now live on a lot longer than even I will. It has been preserved for future generations that aren't even born yet. So that in mind, if you have any questions or comments on how to do this, you can direct message us. You can message us in the video feed, or you can message me through email on the Facebook page. That's about it. Signing out from this morning. Keep an eye out. We'll do a preservation of military leather, antique leather video, maybe today, maybe next week. And keep an eye out for that one. And other than that, thank you and have a good day.